All right, I am getting this started on the recording for a contracting call. I am covering for Brian Hines on this one. Hey, Travis, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. My name is Jackson Thomas. I am Brian's brother from another mother. We share we're in-laws, but he's a brother. So but awesome, man. He's taking the one vacation day he does a year since they just had a baby. But hopefully I'll be able to fill in some gaps and get you the level of clarity you were needing. But thank you so much for pushing back from 10:30 to 11. I really appreciate that. How's the morning treating you so far?
It's good. It's good. Things are really busy at work. So kind of flying through the morning so far.
Been now has that been good busy or bad busy, Travis? Like where like good busy is like lots of fun and exciting projects. Bad busy is where you're putting out fires for people.
A little bit of both.
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Yeah, yeah.
So, okay. Well, hopefully this will not be, making you feel busy. It'll be more of the good thing, right? Like pretty exciting, buying a new home, property looks awesome. And so, how are you feeling? Are you feeling excited, feeling a little bit nervous? There's usually a little bit of combination of different emotions or whatever sometimes when you're buying a home.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean definitely more excitement than nervous. But yeah, I would say it's a combination of the two.
Okay, and I would say that that's pretty normal. A lot of times when you're doing a large financial transaction, so I think really the purpose of kind of this meeting was to kind of walk you through the next steps in the process, go through the contract, and then really, oh yeah, go through the next steps, numbers, contract, and then answer any outstanding questions that hopefully that way you can feel good about kind of the ultimate decision you want to go with. So that was kind of what I was thinking we'd cover. Does that sound like a good place to start, or did you maybe have some initial questions you wanted to open up with?
That sounds good with me.
Okay, cool. Well, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of share my screen. What I thought I could do is walk you through the contract, hit on a couple points, then let's walk through the numbers. If the numbers look good, then let's talk through next steps. And I'll email all this over to you and then CC Brian. I think I should be able to resolve most of your concerns, but I'll make sure he's in the loop. Okay, cool. Let's take a look. Here is your contract. Okay, so G Hay did awesome. Now you got to know G Hay through church, is that right?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I know Jihei as well. She's great. Like, so Mark Collins is my father-in-law, and he's a pastor, and so him and Jihei kind of known each other. So he's actually a pastor and an attorney, which is a weird combination. But I married into that family, and so that's how me and Brian got to know each other a little bit. But Jihei is awesome, and so me and Brian are super honored she referred you to us. So you will definitely get the VIP friends and family treatment, discounts, all that stuff. We'll make sure we pull out all the stops because we like a lot of people, but Jihei's one of our favorites. So either way, I think
Yeah,
you're in
she's
great
great.
hands with her. She's a phenomenal negotiator, right? You can already see you were able to get a really good deal on this house below list. You're leveraging the fact that we're in a current buyer's market. So I've got your name spelled that way. We got a 485 sales price. Now, what me and Brian put together was an option at 5% down and 10% down. And it seemed to me that was kind of the two options you wanted to see. Does that sound right? Are you wanting to look at 5 and 10% down?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, cool. So let's do this. Okay, cool. Then I did update the quotes Brian put together for you, and I have counted for the earnest money and option money. So did you have you gotten that money to the title company?
Yeah, that's been taken care of.
Okay, cool. Then next thing on this is have you worked with GHA on the inspection? You have 10 days to get that done. Any updates so far with the inspection?
So we had the um plumbing inspection yesterday, and so we should get the results pretty soon. I think they're going to send a report either today or tomorrow. And then we have the general inspection and everything else, the termite, all of that stuff tomorrow. So yeah, that everything's been scheduled and they're kind of going through it right now.
Okay, fantastic. All right. So then if that's the case, make it just making a quick little adjustment here based on, okay. So what I would say is work with Jihei on that. Her and John are going to run point on that. They're really, really good at that. That's their strength. Okay. Is getting that stuff squared away for you. So I'm assuming everything gets resolved. If there is any updates, let me and Brian know. As I scroll through the rest of this contract, I would say all of this looks good. The next big thing that affects kind of the lending side of the equation is this March 21st. Okay. So that is a Friday. And that's the 21st. That's when you're going to bring the rest of the money in the form of a cashier's check or a wire, and you'll bring the rest of the money and sign everything on that day. Are you in town on that day? You're not going to be traveling or anything?
Yeah, I'll plan on being in town that day.
Okay, perfect. Uh, then okay, then for what that also then means, Travis, is your first mortgage payment will be May 1st. Okay, so I wanted
Okay.
to make sure that you were aware of that. Awesome. Everything looks good here. I don't see anything here worth bringing to your attention. They'll run point on the hydrostatic testing. We'll handle the third party financing. Okay, cool. So I think everything looks good there. So in terms of, I believe probably Brian went over this with you already, but just in terms of interest rates, are you kind of familiar what's been going on with interest rates recently?
Yeah, I was hoping they'd come down, but it hasn't come down
It, it,
substantially.
you're right. It hasn't, right? So here's what I would say is some thoughts just to consider, right? Because interest rates is a hot button issue. That's almost the reason I was bringing it up, right? Is you look here, like rates have gone up in the last 2 years, right? So the bad news is rates went up. The good news is it made it a buyer's market. So the reason you're getting a below market price is because rates are higher. You have more negotiating power as a buyer. If this was 2 years ago, you probably would have been paying 515, 525 for this home, right? There's a bidding war to a certain degree. So you can't really time interest rates, but what we can do is try to give you the best deal possible. And so I would say there's the short term and the long term. Short term is I promise you're going to work every angle possible to get you the best rate possible. I have a couple ideas, so I'm going to kind of give you some context, but also too, we offer a one-time update of the rate at no cost. So our thought would be like, hey, I don't know what's going to happen, but there's been some talk with the current administration to push rates down. There's been some recent talk with Doge that, hey, that's going to bring 10 years treasury down. We don't know. People have been talking about this for a while. It's hard to predict for sure. But, I would say Brian and I want to be long-term partners, not only in the short term and long term. So we're going to kind of work both angles, both short term and long term. Now, when I look at like we offer an honest and competitive rate match guarantees, I believe we can beat most lenders out there, but there's a couple different variables on an interest rate. So What I'm seeing right now, if I go to Wall Street Journal today, what is the posted going 30-year fixed rate mortgage with an 800 FICO score? It's 7.2. That's like with no fees. That's typically how the Wall Street Journal does it. With more standard fees, I would say more in line with most of my competition. This is Mortgage News Daily at a 7% rate, 7.125 on Rocket Mortgage, 6.92 with bankrate.com. So that's, I would say, generally where the market is trading is probably between 6.9 to 7.1 on a conventional loan. Okay. Now you can do 15-year, you can do FHA and stuff like that. Now we know there's, obviously some different lenders out there. So I would say, I think one of the rate hacking strategies I came up with was, I think we had previously looked at doing 6.6. But if we do a 10% program, we can qualify you for a little bit better terms than the last time Brian qualified you. So I wanted to get a little bit more aggressive. When I met with him this morning, we did a little bit of brainstorming on 2 ideas. So I would say let's start with 10% down, because I do think that's going to be a little bit of a better strategy. What that then does, and let's not go here yet. Okay, let's just go vanilla. So vanilla down the course. This would be 485 sales price, 6.375, 35.98. If we get more info, that puts the payment here at 3504. That's inclusive of your principal and interest, plus the property taxes, plus homeowners insurance. Okay. Now this is pulled on the actual property, Travis. So I'm good on that number. This is a good faith estimate. But typically, if you do bundle the homeowners insurance with me and Brian, we're able to get a little better deals, because Cross Country is such a big lender. We can sometimes negotiate better terms, but we do need to get that done here in the next day or two. So if you ultimately want to go with us as the lender, we'll get that squared away for you and get you some quotes. If you want to use us for the insurance, you can do the mortgage and insurance with us. If you're like, want to shop it with other people, you can do that too. I would recommend try to get that nailed down in the next week. Okay. We do provide a free clue report, so we can actually get that to Jihei and John, and that might help you identify extra things outside of just the initial inspection. Sometimes there's like water claim history that we can then use to negotiate. So again, that would be another reason I think, if you feel comfortable moving forward with me and Brian today, we can go ahead and get to work on that. Have you started down the path on homeowners insurance at all?
Slightly. I just was looking at um one of the options, and it asked a lot of questions I didn't know the answer to, so I kind of stalled out. So
That's okay. That's common. I mean, we can kind of hold your hand through that. I figured today, let's just tackle the mortgage, right? But that
okay.
could be the next step, is we can fill in some of those gaps for you. We probably might know some of the answers with, on our own. We can get some of the answers through a clue report. I can do some own research, and then we can also ask you, because you might want to choose certain coverage levels. Some of it you can control, and other parts of it I think I can get on our own. Um, but then there is mortgage insurance that does come off the loan though once you get to 15% down. Okay, so 15% equity. So we normal lenders remove it at 20, we can remove it at 15. So that's kind of a unique thing. So you probably only pay that for maybe another 1 to 2 years, I would think. Plus, hopefully, if rates do come down, we can refinance it off here in the next 1 or 2 years as well. But for now, you would need a budget for a payment just under 3,600. Okay, that would be my standard vanilla first option. How does that compare to kind of what you were expecting? It's a little better, I think, the last time you looked at it with Brian, but give me your thoughts and feedback. Do you feel good with that number, or do you have concerns?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty good number. And that's, yeah, it's better than what I had seen from Brian before. Um, and I had gotten like one other offer from another mortgage lender that was just slightly below that. But yeah, that's pretty accurate with kind of what I was hoping to get to, essentially.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like you maybe had talked to another. Did you get an actual quote from the other lender, or was it just a rate?
Uh, so it was like a full sheet of like the information, basically. Um, like the transaction summary.
Would you be able to send that over to us?
Yeah, sure, I could send that to y'all.
Because I mean, I do think it probably is in your best interest to try to make, a final decision. I do think, since me and Brian was, more involved in helping get the offer accepted, we'd love to find a way to just resolve any outstanding concerns and have you ultimately choose us as lender. But, I do understand, you probably are wanting to make sure you're getting the best deal. So my thought is, if we can do a side-by-side comparison, that could be another way to give you more assurance that, we are working every option possible to pick up that angle. And then let's see here. One, I'm gonna go ahead maybe on my spreadsheet. I have two options. I'm gonna show you my first one on what I think would be another way where we offer creative options that a lot of lenders don't. We have a special inflation buster program that I think potentially could get super aggressive. This property does qualify for it. Not all properties do. Um, but wait, shoot, what county? Travis, right? No, not Travis. Harris. Sorry.
Yeah, Harris.
Yeah, I don't know why I get those two confused. Okay, Harris. I've got to plug in the county for this particular part of the equation. So, okay. While that runs in the background, what I'm gonna do is yep. Okay, let's walk through the other creative idea. So that's our standard vanilla option, right? Now, different lenders offer different things, right? It sounds like you even talked to maybe a lender that's offering a little bit lower. Do you know how does the payment compare though? Like, are we comparable on payment, or how did that look? Do you know?
Yeah, so I think the total monthly payment was like 3550 area. So pretty close. Yeah.
Okay. So then, oh, I need to add that in. Okay. Okay, so we're kind of close there. So I was wondering, because sometimes if I bundle the homeowner's insurance, that is an angle that we offer. Not all lenders do that. So then what I would say is, hey, here would be the other creative option I would offer is I would say, hey, this property qualifies for an inflation buster program. Okay. What that means is I can actually give you a lower rate for the first 2 years of the loan. Okay. And so what we would then do is build that into the overall deal and give you an offsetting credit to allow you to buy down the rate. And then we're kind of covering that cost in the deal. Okay. So what that would look like is if we go this way, it's a little bit more creative, but I find a lot of buyers really like this because I kind of view it as kind of like it buys you some time to see rates come down. Because like I can knock the payment down to 3,099 for the first year. So that would be May of this year to May of next year. That's your payment.
Mhm.
May of next year, the payment's 3,370. Okay. Starting in year 3, this is your rate. This is a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. It would never go higher than this. Okay. But, what I would say is you can then refinance anytime in the next 2 years. But worst case, if you don't, it gives you a lower payment for the first 2 years which is usually the more expensive years you're ever in a home. Now, how do we do this, right? Well, the thing is, we basically roll it into the purchase price. I'm going to raise the sales price 10,000, but I'm going to give you $10,000 upfront right now to get a lower rate. I'm going to basically build that $10,000 right now. We call it our equity advance program. So I'm going to advance you the equity. Jihei did an awesome job, right? So she negotiated $15,000 off the sales price. Okay. Now that's awesome, right? But does that $15,000, do you feel it in your life right now? When would you get the 15,000? Well, you'd get it when you sold it. Like, how long do you think you'll keep the property?
You know, probably around 7 years or so,
Right.
something
Okay.
like that.
So let's say you sell it, right? That's 2032. You get that 15,000. It'd be like having 15,000 in your 401k. It's nice if you don't get it till you're 65. What I can do is say, hey, I'll give you 10,000 of that equity right now, and I'll give you a lower payment right now of $500 for year 1. Then I'm going to give you a lower payment for 250. So you get an advance on that equity right now. You can then use that money to pay down debt, invest in your 401k, just have a more budget in your monthly budget. It's a little more creative, but it's just an option. A lot of buyers don't even know that's even out there. They're like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. So if you're very payment sensitive, which a lot of people are, I would say it's a creative idea worth considering. If we're really looking for like what gets you the lowest rate, I would almost call this like a 2-year arm. Like I'm going to get you a lower rate for 2 years, and I'll build it into the deal. So I don't know. That would be my creative way to get the payment a little bit lower and to maybe compete with that other lender. What are your thoughts on that? Do you like the sound of that? What is your initial thoughts and feedback?
Um, yeah, I mean that's interesting. I appreciate just sort of working through how the buy down works and just sort of adding the cost into it. That's uh, you know, definitely kind of a creative solution. I think my initial thought would be to go with kind of the plain vanilla route. Um, but it's definitely something to consider. I haven't like completely written it off, but because I mean the 2 years that sounds, um, like a good amount of time, and like you said, once you pay off like 15%, then the mortgage insurance comes off. So
Yeah.
I feel like there's some factors like that playing in it too. So I don't know. I'd have to think about that a little bit.
Okay, yeah, and like you said, I mean, I would encourage you. You probably want to make a decision on the lender here in the next week, and so just know Brian's a little bit out of pocket today, so I'm kind of trying to cover for him, right? But me and him and I talked for quite a bit this morning, kind of, and just we were thinking, okay, like, hey, could we work different angles, right? I'd say, the other option is send me the quote from the lender. Maybe I can take it to my CO. Maybe we can just do a match. If you want to just do vanilla, I would just say maybe give us last and final. Like, give us a shot at it to see if we can, make sure we get the best deal. I can't beat every lender out there. So if you shop long enough online, Travis, you might find somebody that can beat me and Brian. But me and Brian are usually pretty creative, and sometimes we can work a few other angles that maybe tip the scales a little bit in our favor. Like you said, maybe we're $50 off a month than the other lender. But if I get rid of the PMI, if I offer the free refinance, if we maybe do something here, maybe overall, like you may feel more comfortable, going with our overall package, and so I don't know, does that sound fair? Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds interesting. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think my goal is to figure it out by tomorrow. That's kind of the date that I've sort of set internally. And like I said, work has just been kind of crazy. So I've just, received these quotes, gonna sort of think about them probably tonight and tomorrow, um, and then just sort of make my final decision tomorrow and kind of go on from there. But no, I mean, it sounds really interesting, and I like the whole layout that you've put. It sounds like y'all are very, know what's going on in the market and know what's going on with interest rates, and so I like the idea of having like a long-term partner and someone who's well educated on that. So yeah, I appreciate the whole presentation and everything. And if you could like send me like the full like
Yeah, I'm
breakdown,
gonna
that
I'm
would
gonna
be
email you the
awesome
breakout
too.
of all this, right? So you get it all in writing. And then what I would say is Brian's out of pocket today. I'm trying my best to cover for him, but obviously, we haven't really worked yet that much. So I would just say is, hey, before you make a final decision, just give Brian one more shot. Like, let him look at the other quotes. I make sure it's apples to apples. And then number ones, I totally get rate is probably most important, right? Rate payment. Then beyond that, like I would say closing cost, I would encourage you, make sure that's being evaluated correctly, that there's nothing missing there. And because we do offer a rate match guarantee, if there is something you're getting that's better, most time we can match it. If we can't, though, Travis, we'll be straight with you. Be like, hey, Travis, that is a really good deal. Because I mean, I would say if you're getting 6.25, that's massively below the market. There's something going on there. There's some kind of special program, and that's why me and Brian were trying to get a little more creative. Is like there are sometimes like more special programs out there. Like the going rates here, you're already getting a pretty good deal in a couple ways. So, but if we're only maybe $50 off a month, like if you feel more comfortable with Brian, then I think I can call my CEO and we can maybe work something out. It helps me know that if it's an apples to apples, because sometimes lenders say certain things, but then you don't get it in writing. So if you get to that point and you're like, hey, Jackson and Brian, I'm going to analyze this, and based on my analysis, I think the other one's ahead. If we're not too far off, just maybe give us one more fair shot. Would be just my ask, since he'll probably be a little more available tomorrow. He was just like completely out of pocket today. So,
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
is that fair?
No, yeah, no, I'm happy to give y'all one shot and just yeah, I'll definitely send that over to you guys. And I totally understand he's out of pocket today. I'm honestly going to be out of pocket the rest of the day too. So
Okay.
yeah, I'll send that over to y'all. And if you could just get back to me tomorrow by
Yeah, we can do it.
like noon or so, that would be super helpful.
And what I would say is one, I get you want to make your decision tomorrow, and I think that's probably best. Let's move on. But what I would say is other questions I think you should ask the other lenders. Ask a rate, ask closing costs. Do they guarantee the close date? 100%, or they'll refund you your earnest money. I think getting guarantees or in writing is helpful just because statistically, the amount of mortgage denials that were up last year because of some of the regulations that have happened, it's increased quite a bit. So that is one reason GA usually recommends. I would say going with a recommended realtor that comes recommended from a friend or family or GA, you're probably gonna have a little better shot at it. But okay, let's keep moving on because I'll email this to you. You can do your analysis, right? So we got our numbers here. I did want to quickly just clarify these numbers I've updated to include the earnest money. Okay. So what this means is, and then are you good with 10% down? Because I can run another scenario while I have you. But if we're just looking at 10% down, you're about 65,000 all in. That's what you're bringing on closing day. This is with your earnest, with your escrow account. This is with the lender fees. This is with the appraisal fee and the title fees and everything kind of built in. So I've got kind of everything outlined there. Do you have questions on closing costs? I know you and Brian already kind of went over it. I just wanted to make sure that I was being clear on that, that you're about 65,000 all in, but your cash to close is 60. Are you comfortable with that budget?
Yeah, I mean, I think seeing 5% would also be good if you could include that in the whatever you send over.
Okay, so if we did 5%. Give me just a second. Oh, okay. Hold on. I gotta click one more button. Okay, I think it's updated now. All right, so we got 5% down, 10% down. So with 5%, you'd be at a payment of 37.86. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. 37.86. And then that cash to close is 36,000. So kind of at first glance, which one are you more comfortable with?
Um, I think so what would that bring everything like the monthly payment? Because I know like the
Oh,
difference between 5%.
37.86 would be your all-in payment.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Um, hmm. And so do you have like does the, I guess, Sales Buster or Inflation Buster program apply to the 5% as
It
well?
does as well. Yep. So actually, that's why I
Okay.
was kind of thinking, like, if you're kind of leaning more towards that, what I might do is just say 5% down inflation buster. Let's update that. That way, if you're going to look at the inflation buster program, let's look at the one that you're kind of leaning more towards, is my thought. So I'm gonna, okay, there we go. Okay, I think I got that all built in. Okay, so I think you have 10% down standard, right? But then this would get you down to 3260 and 3500. And then now you're only 37,000 cash to close is what you bring on closing day.
Okay, gotcha.
Do you feel a little more comfortable with that?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think that sounds like something, if I went 5%, I would probably lean a little bit closer to the Inflation Buster, but if I went 10%, I would probably stick with vanilla. Um,
Okay.
so I just gotta figure out what looks right. I gotta just kind of evaluate everything, look at what I have, what I'm willing to spend on closing, realistically, and like what improvements I need to make to the house, see how much money I need once I start the house, because I don't want to go in and spend all my money on closing and then have to buy all of
I,
these
I
things.
would
And
probably lean more towards 5% down, is my thought.
yeah,
For what it's worth, we do offer a free program as well. And again, we kind of have to, we try to get a little more creative because we just do mortgages. So we can get a little more boutique. We offer a free second down payment program. So for example, what that means is we close you with 5% down. But let's say you do some renovations on them, and let's say maybe you like get a bonus towards the end of the year, or maybe even your IRS tax refund. Like it does look like you get some bonuses, right? So what we could do is say, hey, get into the house, come back to me in 3, 6, 12 months, put another 5% down. I can just update the payment. I
okay,
think
yeah,
I think, in my opinion, I'm kind of more of a Dave Ramsey guy. Having a 3 to 6 month emergency fund is a better use of your money. I think sometimes even, let's see here, if we, you get student loans, I wouldn't do that, but you don't, yeah, you don't really have much debt. Okay, so you manage your debt well, right? So I would say is, hey, what if we did this? Come back, we'll set you up on a biweekly program. You could pay your mortgage on a biweekly program. That's one extra payment a year. That knocks 7 years off your mortgage. We don't charge for that. Or do one extra payment a year, throw an extra $10,000, $20,000 down, and then we could knock your payment down too. And then that gives you the flexibility to say, hey, don't spend as much money right now. Just get into the home, get settled, moving expenses, furniture, TVs, little maybe small things you want to do. I think that's a little more of a less stressful way to go in. Like, and it really only saves you, what is it, like 100, $200 a month, right? If you put that 10% down, it saves you $190 a month, which is good, but like for a little bit more peace of mind, you know. So I don't know. That just is that helpful at all? Sometimes I talk in circles, and so I know you got to run. If feel free to cut me off at any time if I'm long talking.
Yeah, no, I mean that is super helpful, but yeah, I do kind of have to cut you off just because I have
Yeah, I'll email this all over
stuff
to
that's just
you.
going.
I'm gonna put this on writing, and then why don't we do this? Brian should be available tomorrow. So you do your analysis, and my hope is you ultimately decide to go with us. If not, just give us one last shot, and then we'll go from there. We'll wish you the best either way. But you're in great hands with Jihei. She's awesome. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, it looks like a great helm. I'll get this email to you in a few minutes. I'll CC Brian, and we'll go from there. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
All right, Travis. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it, and look forward to hearing back from you. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thanks, man. Bye.
Thanks.